Imagine yourself standing beneath a stand of ancient pines, the wind whistling through the branches, and before you is a 1979 Chevy camper van, its surface caked in mud, moss, and the passage of time. You sense a faint, haunting whisper. The Lone Explorer's Camper, lost 1988, found 2008. Just 20 hours after a once happy couple posed for a photograph, this vehicle rolled into the wild, carrying both a thirst for adventure and a newlywed's love. Yet it would become a question mark that hung over 20 years of uncertainty. In the remote reaches of Cascade country, we not only find an abandoned camper, but also a trail of determination that runs through the heart of Emily Dawson, the wife who waded through 2 decades of her husband's disappearance. Right now, you can feel the cold pressing against your spine. Cold not only from the snow outside, but also from the knowledge that a man vanished into a wilderness at once majestic and merciless. Sit down, set aside the rhythm of your life outside, and follow me as we travel back in time to unfold the story of the Lone Explorer's Camper, lost 1988, found 2008. This is more than a record of one man's perilous trek into mountain wilderness. It is an epic of enduring love, unwavering belief, and the kind of miracle we only read about in legends. Most of the small town of Willow Creek lay quiet under a blanket of winter snow in early 1988. The houses with their weathered wooden siding, the winding dirt roads that led straight into the forest, and the bone-chilling cold were as familiar as breathing to the locals. Yet for Marcus Dawson, nothing was more thrilling than those jagged peaks and frozen streams of the Cascade Range. Born and raised in Willow Creek, son of a carpenter father and a grade school teacher mother, he had spent his youth scrambling up rocky slopes, chasing the rush of standing atop a summit. His reputation around town was simple. If there was a cliff to be climbed, Marcus would be on it. It was on a snowy February evening in 1988, inside the town's tiny library, that Marcus first saw Emily Turner. She was a shy English teacher fresh from Seattle, and the backdrop for their meeting was a display of landscape photography. One image in particular caught Marcus's eye. A lone figure standing atop a snow-covered mountain ridge, gazing down into a misty valley. "The Lone Explorer," he murmured, and Emily looked up. In that moment, they recognized each other's kindred spirit. Over the next few weeks, they shared walks down ice-crusted roads and exchanged hot cider at the local cafe. Marcus loved Emily's gentle smile and her thoughtful insights about literature. Emily was drawn to Marcus's fearless determination and his restless yearning for exploration. By spring, they were inseparable. Only 3 months after that first visit to the library, they married, news that quickly spread through Willow Creek. Marcus and Emily represented a perfect partnership. She was gentle and devoted. He was bold and unafraid. They bought a 1979 Chevrolet van and spent weeks converting it into a camper. They named it Wanderer, fitting it out with a small propane stove, a tiny refrigerator, fresh wooden flooring, and double-pane windows. Emily sewed a hand-embroidered map of the Cascade Range onto tiny curtains, while Marcus painted a topographical chart of the Crest Trail on a wooden panel in the cabin. Their plan was simple. As soon as the late spring snows melted, Marcus would drive the Wanderer along the Pacific Crest Trail, the long route skirting the Cascade Range's flanks, surveying Black Rock Cave, photographing migrating birds, and measuring snowpack and its effects on local wildlife. Emily would remain behind in Willow Creek, taking over his teaching duties and running the Morning Glory Cafe out of the old farmhouse near Main Street. selling breakfast sandwiches to hikers preparing for their own adventures. People warned them about the region's dangerous weather and rugged terrain, but Marcus just grinned. "I've climbed harder cliffs," he told them. Emily, gazing into his eyes, quietly reminded him, "Promise me you'll radio me at least once a week." He squeezed her hand, seeing the concern behind her gentle expression, and said, "I will. I always come home to you." On the morning of June 3rd, 1988, the sun had barely cut through the mist when Marcus climbed into the Wanderer, strapped on a heavy pack containing topographic maps and a 35mm camera, and radioed Emily, "I love you." She wept and reminded him, "Call me every Friday, just a quick check-in." He smiled, kissed her forehead, and steered the camper toward the narrow mountain roads. From her porch, Emily watched until the van disappeared around a bend under towering pines. She returned to the cafe and kept a pot of strong coffee brewing, staring out at the winding trail, waiting for word. Every morning for the next 3 weeks, she'd brew espresso, set a fresh slice of apple pie on a plate by the window, and watch the road, hoping to glimpse her husband's van once more. For the first week, there was silence. By the second week, the hush felt deafening, as Emily's mind constantly replayed images of Marcus scaling cliffs and trudging through snowdrifts. She imagined him clacking away on a two-way radio, telling her about mountain conditions. Yet there was never a response. By week 3, her hope grew fragile. During the day, she taught Shakespeare and Steinbeck at Willow Creek High School. At night, she tuned a battered handheld radio to the local ranger station frequency, praying for Marcus's voice to crackle through the static. But the radio stayed silent. On June 24th, 1988, a forest ranger from the small station at Silver Pass spotted the Wanderer parked off to the side of the Crest Trail. The engine was running, and the headlights were still on. The door hung ajar, and inside lay charts scrawled with Marcus's handwriting. When they sent a rescue party out to investigate, all they found was a brown notebook sitting on the passenger seat, its pages creased and damp, in ink barely legible through condensation. It read, 6/23/88, strong winds at Camp 3, blizzard tonight. I will measure the snow depth near Black Rock Cave in the morning, then head on toward Ridgeview. Everything is normal. The mountains roar. On the next page, 6/24/88, winds picked up, blizzard arriving early. The cave is the safest shelter. I will try to send a radio message from the summit. After that, there was nothing. A single pair of boot prints tracked off into a frozen stream bed toward Black Rock Cave, about 2 miles from where the van was found. Then nothing. Over 4 days, helicopters, bloodhounds, and rescue crews searched the cave, only discovering a small propane bottle, a tattered pair of leather gloves, and a pouch of dried corn kernels. But no sign of Marcus. A deadly blizzard descended, reducing visibility to mere feet. So the searchers reluctantly withdrew, the official verdict declaring Marcus Dawson missing, presumed lost to the elements. In Willow Creek, his disappearance was described as no trace found. Back home, Emily inhabited a world of radio static and hastily scribbled notes. Local news carried brief bulletins, explorer missing, Cascade region, but no solid clues emerged. Emily, gripped by anxiety, set up her own base of operations at the cafe. Every Friday at noon, she'd man the radio and broadcast a plea for any incoming report. By winter of 1988, the memories of the Wanderer receded like melting snow. A lone camper van parked off-trail, the notebook on the seat, and 2 blank days of radio silence. Each night, Emily sat beside a single candle, pen in hand, drafting letters scented with lavender oil, hoping a miracle might carry them to her husband's ears. Then insomnia took over. her life forever suspended in a pattern of teaching English by day and clinging to radio hope by night. Over the next few years, local hunters and professional mountaineers made repeated attempts to scour Black Rock Cave, Ridgeview, and the surrounding peaks. Each spring, snowmelt revealed faint boot prints. Each summer, more helicopters buzzed overhead, dipping sensors to the ground in the hope of detecting a distress signal. Each fall, the blizzard returned, and the search retreated, leaving only ice and quiet. While the town's memory of Marcus faded, Emily's devotion did not. She printed flyers, posted them on every telephone pole in town, and wrote to mountaineering magazines. "If anyone knows anything about Marcus Dawson, please contact me." She also studied survival manuals and borrowed GPS devices, even experimenting on her own by trekking a mile into the forest to see if she could track someone's old tracks. She fell once, spraining her wrist, and the local paramedic told her, "You've lost too much hope to keep going like this." She only replied, "What else is there?" By the early 1990s, Emily had established a small support group called Cascade Hope to help families of missing hikers and raise awareness of safety on the trails. She appeared at local town hall meetings, offering workshops for $5 donations, instructions on packing emergency rations, setting up an improvised snow shelter, and using emergency radio frequencies. Word spread, drawing in women in their late 40s and 50s, moms, teachers, nurses, who'd listen to Emily's impassioned plea broadcast on the radio. "If anyone can hear this, help him." The legend of the lone explorer, lost in summer 1988, found in the hearts of believers, became a local tale of heartbreak and tenacity. Emily learned how to splice old radio wiring, taught herself to program frequencies on handheld transceivers, and even arranged phone patches from a ham radio operator in Canada. She refused to sell the Wanderer, despite its rising storage fees. "That van carries everything," she insisted. Nights found her hunched over a desk, reading survival guides by lantern light, counting the miles Marcus might have trekked that final day. Each spring, she'd board the bus to Seattle to check in with rescue units and pay hospital visits to returning climbers, hoping to glean any detail about Marcus's fate. But each lead fizzled until winter's first snowfall erased it again. By the late 90s, Emily had become a familiar figure, slender, with a weathered face and determined blue eyes. She taught at the high school during the day and ran a free walking tour of trail safety on weekends. Each Christmas, she'd host a gathering called Lights of Hope at Black Rock Camp, where participants brought candles and lined the trail in lanterns, creating a glittering path through the snow, symbolizing that someone somewhere was still looking for Marcus. As the years passed, even Emily's own father, Mr. Turner, who'd first introduced her to Marcus, passed away, leaving her to carry on alone. On his deathbed, he whispered to her, "As long as you have strength to wait, miracles can still happen." Emily wept at his bedside and vowed to keep waiting. Then, in October 2008, an unusually mild winter sent only a thin dusting of snow over the Cascades. A group of 4 young backpackers from Seattle, Sarah, Mike, Raj, and Elena, arrived at Twilight Ridge, a rarely visited part of the Crest Trail. As the sun dipped low, Mike froze in place. "Is that the Wanderer over there?" The others followed his gaze and saw the Chevrolet camper half buried in mud and brush, its faded green paint glinting in the sunset. The sight left them breathless. Sarah cautiously approached, brushing aside moss and vines to reveal the van's rusty trim. It felt as if the vehicle spoke to them. "I've waited 20 years. They snapped photos with their phones and with racing hearts, activated their satellite phone to call the local search and rescue team. They reported coordinates: latitude 47 degrees 3915 N, longitude 121 degrees 4022 W, 2 miles northeast of Black Rock Camp. That very night, Emily, preparing to speak at a community hall about trail safety, heard the satellite phone's alert tone. "Hello?" she gasped. "This is Victor Roberts from the National Forest Service. We've located the Wanderer." Her heart pounded like a drum as she sprinted from the hall to her old Honda Civic. Though the autumn air was crisp, sweat beaded on her forehead as she raced east, clutching her hands around a steaming mug of coffee. Every mile felt like a lifetime as she repeated quietly to herself, "It could be him. This has to be him." The radio dispatcher's voice crackled. "Dawson camper found. Coordinates confirm it's the one Marcus used. Please hold on while we confirm any survivors." Emily's breath caught. Please, he must be alive. By dawn on October 13th, 2008, Emily arrived at the search base near the old Black Rock Camp Ranger Station. Rescue helicopters and medics had already converged. Surgeons tested a lab sample from a damp, torn page found under the passenger seat. It read, in shaky handwriting, 6-4-88. Blizzard swallowed the trail. I'm trapped in Black Rock Cave, trying to radio out. If this is the last page you find, I'm still here. Marcus Dawson. Emily couldn't read the entire page for tears, but she recognized his handwriting, the same slant in the letters, the familiar loop of the M. She knelt before the camper van and touched its cold metal, imagining Marcus stepping out of the darkness. The note was an echo from the past. I'm still alive, trying to get out. That night, she barely slept, broadcasting a plea on every radio frequency she could find. "This is Emily Dawson. If you can hear this, please know my husband is still out there. Please help me bring him home." Meanwhile, a rescue team led by Dr. Henry Cullen, an ER physician with mountain survival training, and Ranger Ellen Keane, combed the trail with infrared scanners and sniffer dogs. By mid-morning, they were at the mouth of Black Rock Cave, where last traces had been found. As they stepped closer, Dr. Cullen heard a faint moan from a crevice in the rocks. "There's someone in there," he shouted. Creeping forward, they spotted a figure slumped against the cold stone, bundled in layers of tattered clothing, one arm pinned at a painful angle. It was Marcus, his face gaunt, beard flecked with frost, eyes dim but glimmering when he realized they were there. His leg was pinned under a fallen rock, broken for who knew how long. Dr. Cullen sent a satellite call. "We have him. Marcus Dawson, conscious, hypothermic, likely fractured tibia. Send helicopter ASAP." Marcus whispered hoarsely, "Emily, call Emily." Ellen lifted him gently. With help from the rescuers, they carried him to the clearing, where a medevac helicopter waited. When the helicopter touched down at St. Mary's Medical Center in Seattle on October 15, 2008, Marcus was immediately rushed into surgery for multiple fractures and severe frostbite. Emily never left his side. Tears welled in her eyes as she held his cold hand. "You kept your promise," she told him. "You came home." He weakly squeezed her hand and managed a feeble smile. "I always come back to you." Over the next 6 weeks, Marcus lay in a hospital bed, recovering from surgeries and intensive physical therapy. Emily read to him from Whitman's poems, held his hand, and reminded him of every victory he'd won over mountain cliffs. Each day, his strength returned incrementally. On clear mornings, he'd open the window and feel the sun on his face for the first time in 2 decades. He wrote in a fresh notebook, 10/16/08, I'm home. Emily is by my side. The world smells of pine and coffee. I will never leave again. Meanwhile, Emily's Cascade Hope organization took on new life. She and Marcus expanded their survival workshops, offering classes on emergency radio use, winter camping tactics, and mental resilience for hikers. As the news of Marcus's return spread, women between 45 and 65 flocked to the seminars. Many of them mothers, teachers, and nurses, drawn by his story of surviving 2 decades under a glacier of snow. They filled the community center, eyes shining as he described how he melted pockets of snow for water, rigged a makeshift sled from a tree limb, and wrote that final plea in the damp notebook. By spring of 2009, Marcus was strong enough to walk with crutches. They returned to Willow Creek, where the old family home had been updated. A fresh coat of sage green paint on the siding, double-pane windows to trap warmth, and a heated floor in the kitchen. Emily and Marcus planted rosemary and thyme in the garden, determined to let fragrant life grow amid the memories of white death. Marcus began volunteering at Cascade Hope's new branch in Seattle, teaching cold weather survival courses, how to build a snow shelter, use a portable stove to melt snow, or navigate by stars when a blizzard erased the trail. In June 2008, memorial services in Willow Creek honored the 20 years of waiting. Lanterns were strung along the old Crest Trail, each flame a symbol of the hope that never dimmed. Emily's lifetime of organizing these events had touched hundreds, especially women who saw their own children grown or grandchildren beloved. Their eyes glistened as she spoke. "If I can survive this, so can anyone who refuses to give up." When Marcus appeared, leaning heavily on his cane, a hush fell over the gathering. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a frost-bitten maple leaf, pressed into his pocket back in 1988, and handed it to Emily. She pressed it against her heart, brimming with tears. From 2010 onward, Emily and Marcus settled in a cozy cabin on the outskirts of Willow Creek, equipped with reliable internet, a satellite phone, and more than a dozen radios tuned to various emergency frequencies. Marcus started a small outdoors company called Hopeful Trails, offering guided survival tours designed for women ages 45 to 65, those who'd long raised children and now sought a personal challenge. Each trip included lessons on packing weatherproof gear, erecting an ice shelter, and maintaining radio contact in the wild. The first group comprised 9 women, a mix of nurses, teachers, and small business owners, who anxiously arrived at camp with brand new backpacks. By day 2, after a lesson on building a snow shelter from spruce boughs and falling snow, several confessed tears of relief and triumph. "If Marcus can endure 20 years alone, I can make it through an overnight storm," one of them said. Meanwhile, Emily continued to develop Cascade Hope, which had grown into a nonprofit with chapters in 3 states. They ran monthly webinars on finding lost loved ones and distributed trail safety kits to local ranger stations. Their signature winter event, Lights of Hope, now drew hundreds to Black Rock Camp each December. Participants lit candles along the trail in a silent vigil, an annual reminder that no one should vanish without leaving a light behind. In the spring of 2015, Marcus was invited to speak at the International Survivors Forum in Vancouver, Canada. Facing an audience of 100 representatives from around the globe, search and rescue teams, psychologists, and fellow survivors, he recounted those days lost under snow. "I thought I was done for, but I kept writing, kept melting snow for water, kept the hope alive, and believed Emily would hear me." The crowd rose to a standing ovation. Many wiped tears as he spoke of the simple miracle of being found. By June 2018, Willow Creek held a 3-decade commemoration of Marcus's disappearance. The town square was decorated with banners showing the camper van beneath swirling snow. An outdoor exhibit displayed dozens of Marcus's original photos: icicle-laden outcrops, frozen pines, and the dark mouth of Black Rock Cave. Another panel showed Marcus and Emily on their wedding day, laughing under snowflakes. Hundreds gathered, holding candles and flowers. Emily and Marcus stood together on a raised platform. Emily addressed the silent crowd. "We endured 20 years of heartbreak and 20 years of joy. Never let go of hope, for even in deepest snow, a single flame can guide you home." Marcus took her hand. "Without her, I'd still be lost in that storm." And now, to you, perhaps a woman over 45 who has watched her children grow, and maybe even held grandchildren on your knee, you understand the ache of waiting, the fear of never hearing a loved one's voice again. If their story resonates with you, share it with anyone who needs a spark of hope. In the hush of winter's night, when you feel isolated, remember, even if a blizzard hides the trail, a single light can pierce through the darkness. The Wanderer was just a camper van, but love and determination are what made it a vessel of miracles. Marcus Dawson trekked from beneath a snowcap and returned because Emily Dawson never stopped believing. In your own life, whether you face personal storms or long absences, hold on to that belief. There is always a path home.